Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to another edition of Ask the SCSA. My name is Kara Bildfell, Safety Advisor out of the Saskatchewan office, and I'll be your host today. And I'll just let the rest of the panelists introduce themselves. So Steve, you want to start?
Hi, I'm Steve Waldbar, Safety Advisor with the SCSA. I'm started in November, so I'm kind of the new kid on the block. I do have a pretty extensive background in construction. I've been doing it for 20 plus years, but the safety office side of things and the office or the advisor side is pretty brand new to me, and I'm enjoying it pretty good right now.
Perfect, thanks Steve. Bill, you want to go next?
Certainly. I'm Bill Gazelle. I work out of the Saskatchewan office. I've been with the SCSA quite some time now, and this is sort of my first time streaming live. So if I stutter, you'll have to apologize or have to provide me an apology, or I'll provide you an apology, I should say.
Thanks, Bill. Jaria, you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jaria Samrath. I'm a safety trainer out of the Saskatchewan office. I've been with the SCSA now just a little bit over a year. Super excited to be here. Second time on live with everyone here. So super excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jaria. And Kelly?
I'm Kelly Champagne. I'm the Program Services Manager at the SCSA, and I look after the core program, C-Core, NCSO, and HSA programs.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. And last but not least, we have Carrie with us.
Hi, I'm Kerry Greening, Program Auditor with SCSA. I've been around for about 8 years coming up, and I've done a variety of jobs, including safety advising as well as teaching many classes. So I have a good vast of experience and hope to share some things and answer questions with regards to audits today.
Perfect. Thanks for the awesome introductions, everybody. So yes, with the Ask the SCSA, we're here to try to keep you abreast of what's going on in construction safety and answer any questions that you may have. We're going to ask if you're on Zoom that you use the Q&A feature so that everybody can see the questions and we can answer them appropriately. First and foremost, I think we have a presentation from Bill. So Bill, you want to take it away?
Certainly. All right. So as you can see on the screen, today is recognized nationally as the Day of Mourning. It's a day that was put into place to remember those that were lost to workplace injury and illness. For those of you, I spent quite a while, we recognized this when I was on site, and I didn't know a lot of the history behind it, but I'm just, oh, it's not slide changing for me here. Anyhow, the National Day of Mourning was instituted, oh, sorry, there's a bit of a delay. There we go. In 1991, the Parliament of Canada passed the Workers' Mourning Act, making April 28th the official day of mourning. Throughout Canada and every year, the 28th day of April shall be known as the Day of Mourning for persons killed or injured on the workplace. So in 2019, sadly, we had 36 workers who had died from a workplace injury or disease. A lot of construction companies take time to pause at around 11 a.m. to provide a moment of silence, just so that we can think about those that lost their lives for an occupation or within an occupation, and we can reflect a little bit about what their families are going through, and trying again to think about how we can prevent this from happening to us and to our co-workers. And again, this is a nationally recognized and internationally recognized Day of Mourning, with over 100 countries recognizing that today, April 28th, is the day to reflect back again for injured and deceased workers. So we remember those who died or who were injured, made ill from their work, and we commit to protecting workers and preventing further workplace tragedies. So again, for those of you that are on site today, take time around 11 o'clock to take a few moments to reflect back and think about those people, not just the ones in the previous years, but all of our workplace injuries, illnesses, and deaths that have occurred over the past. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Bill. Really good to recognize that. So let's make sure we all take a minute today and remember those injured or who have lost their lives at work. Next, I think we have something put together by Steve. So Steve, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I'm actually going to be conducting a toolbox talk today. And, you know, like with what Bill said about the Day of Mourning, it's just, yeah, good to recognize, I mean, why we're in safety at all. You know, I was just looking at my ledge book and how thick it is. And there's a reason it's that thick, and it's because of past injuries, right? So that's why it's just really important to take that time to remember that sort of thing. So, and as mentioned, I'm going to be doing a toolbox talk here. I'll just get my screen opened up. And before I do get into the toolbox talk, I do want to share a couple of statistics that I have in regards to fall, which is what my toolbox talk will be on. Is this opened up here for you guys? We'll put it on here. So thumbs up if you guys can see it. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so the first thing I just want to show you, and it's not really much to talk about on this page. I just want you to just take a look and see kind of the main areas where injuries do occur in our industry, whether it's commercial construction or residential construction. This stuff's just from 2019, but it's, you know, the top 5 causes of injuries. Falls is in every category. You know, a lot of these are, but so it's just a good reminder of you know, of the many things that we got to look out for when it comes to injuries. Now, if you just take a look at these, or keep in mind these, and I'm going to jump to injury rates here next. And this kind of a bit of a chart showing where falls is in regards to injuries. I mean, if you want to take a good look here, falls is only 15% of the claims. But when you start thinking about cost and the average claim duration, then falls really jumps up, and it kind of shows you how important it is that we, you know, keep our workers safe, and how necessary fall protection is for us. And then last but not least for this, we just want to show it by occupations. So I'm just going to pause for a sec, take a look at this, and let me see what I see when I look at this is, first, I don't see a single 0 in this column, right? Now, this isn't all the trades in the construction, but it is a significant amount, and not a 0 in here. So falls affect everybody. I mean, some more than most, like the trades and helpers, right? So, you know, your starters to the business, that sort of thing. I mean, but everybody, electricians, carpenters, plumbers, like these are pretty significant numbers. So while some of these might be small, they still exist. So fall protection on every level still needs to be thought about. Okay, well, now that you see that, I'm going to jump over to the Fall Protection Toolbox. You can find these on our website. So the SCSA online, you can see that. You just go on there and you'll go to resources. But since I'm on here, I'm actually going to sidetrack a little bit, because one thing what we always talk about is contacting your advisor. So if you just click on go to contacts, this will pop up. You're going to see Regina and Saskatoon office. I'm going to go on Regina office. And this will be the same for if you click on Saskatoon, and you can see advisory services right here and all our names on. You click on any one of our names and our email is going to pop up, and you can just email us directly with questions that you have, and we'll get back to you at the earliest time that we can. So just a really great resource if just a question you want to, so just go to contacts, hit Regina or Saskatoon, and go right to our names. Okay, let's go back to resources then. So I'm going to go down here and then toolbox talks. As you can see, there is a lot of toolbox talks on here. Scrolling slowly through here, but I mean, there's a lot of resources for what to talk about. So there is an endless amount of topics and resources just on this one page alone. And you know, just for those of you that just maybe unfamiliar with toolbox talks, it's just an informal safety meeting that focuses on safety topics related to specific jobs. They're very effective methods to refresh workers' knowledge, cover last-minute safety checks, and exchange information with the experienced workers. You know, they're intended to facilitate health and safety discussions on the job site and promote your organization's safety culture. Now, while you're on here, this is a kind of little hidden gem right here. It says click here. You can barely see it, but if you do click on this and act like a toolbox meeting form will pop up, and there you go. You can not only come here for a toolbox ideas, but an actual form to use for your job site as well. So we'll just click back through. You got your form ready. You know what you're going to be doing on the job site today. Then you can pick a topic in regards to that. Today we're going to talk about fall protection, which is right here. I just click on that and it will pop up. And I'll make it maybe one size bigger here. We're just going to read a fall protection toolbox talk today, and then you got one in the books for your job site. Fall protection. Who needs fall protection? If you said workers building bridges or cleaning office tower windows, you'd be right. But what about the workers who work at lesser heights, just a few feet off the ground? They should also be protected from falls, which can be every bit as fatal. Consider your work area. Are these locations from which someone could fall? What sort of protection is in place to prevent a fall? And is there equipment to stop the fall? Companies need to have a fall protection system when working at a height of 3 meters or more, or if there's a possibility of an injury from a worker falling at any height. Companies are mandated to have a fall protection plan in place as per section 116.1 of the Saskatchewan Occupational Health and Safety Regulations. Fall protection types. There are several fall protection apparatuses available, including fall arrest, personal protective equipment, travel restraints, and guardrails. Fall protection equipment must be labeled with the Canadian Standards Association or the American National Standards Institute. So that'd be your CSA or ANSI approved labels. It is important to understand the difference between a fall arrest system and travel restraint system. These are the most commonly used in the construction industry, but may apply to many other situations where employees must work at heights. All workers must wear fall arrest systems when they are in the danger of falling more than 10 feet, or when working above operating equipment, fluids or hazardous substances and objects. A fall arrest system consists of a full body harness and a lanyard with a shock absorber. The fall arrest equipment may be attached directly to an adequate support or connected to an anchored lifeline. Travel restraint limiting systems. Where guardrails have not been provided, a restraint system may be used to restrict a worker's travel distance and prevent them from getting too close to the roof edge. Travel restraint safety equipment is comprised of an anchored lifeline that attaches to the worker's harness. Inspections. Thoroughly inspect all the nylon webbing for frayed edges, broken fibers, burn marks, deterioration, or other visible signs of damage. Stitching should be intact and not torn or loose. The harness should be somewhat soft and flexible and not stiff from dirt or contaminants. Check to see that the buckles and D-rings are not distorted or damaged. Look closely at all the components for stress cracks, deformity, gouging, corrosion, and sharp edges. Inspect connection points where the buckle or D-ring is attached to the harness. Ensure that no stitching is pulled and that the buckle or D-ring is securely attached. Inspect all rivets and grommets to be certain that they are not deformed and are securely fastened to the harness and cannot be pulled loose. If using a shock absorber type of lanyard, look for the warning tag, which indicates that the lanyard has been exposed to a fall. Snap hooks and eyes should be distorted or should not be distorted or bent. Inspect them for cracks, sharp edges, gouges, or corrosion. Check to be sure that the locking system is operating properly and that there is no binding of the mechanism. Test the locking mechanism by pulling sharply on the cable end to be sure it locks immediately and firmly. If you find any of these conditions during inspection, do not use the equipment. And that's it. Like, that's how easy it is to get a toolbox done on your site. It's a good way to just reaffirm and get things started and get your workers thinking about what's going on. You know, you apply that, and then when you saw that toolbox form and you're talking about your safe work practices and safe job procedures, it's a great addition to your mornings while everyone's kind of waking up and getting ready for work, and just, you know, reminding experienced workers and teaching new workers. It's just a great resource. So now that's it for the fall protection. Now to end it, just because we are doing a fall protection survey right now, I would like to just mention that we are trying to update our fall protection training course, and we're asking companies for their help by providing us some feedback on how we can better serve our customers' needs in regards to our new course. So if you're interested in helping out, please get in touch with one of our advisors, and we'll hook you up with the survey. And just, you know how easy it is to get in touch with the advisor now. So yeah, that'd be great. Anyway, that's it for the toolbox talk. And my share screen. Sorry, Tara, it's going to take me a second to get. I don't know where the share screen button is on here.
I think it's right up top, Steve.
No, I'm clicking there.
Nothing.
Well, Steve is looking for his share screen. I'll talk a little bit more about the survey. So earlier the past couple of weeks, we provided the survey to 225 selected companies initially. And now that that group has been contacted, we are currently looking to contact other people with interests in providing, as Steve said, feedback to helping us redevelop our fall protection class. So the next couple of weeks, you may receive an email either randomly from one of our advisors or from one of our staff members. And again, as Steve said, though, please feel free to contact an advisor through the SCSA or the SCSA through one of our communication means if you did want to provide us some feedback to helping us develop that program.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill and Steve. That was really informative. Yeah, as you can see, our website has a lot of great resources that you are more than welcome to go and use at your leisure. So go to the resources tab under, sorry, at scsaonline.ca. The toolboxes are there, the forms are there. Feel free to download and use whatever you like. So as we're kind of going through this, I'll ask Kelly, do you have an update from your department that you'd like to share with us?
We've been working pretty extensively for the last about week and a half, getting ready to do remote CCOR audits. So that's taken up a lot of our focus. We're going to be starting to do those in a week and a half. We already have 6 scheduled for the month of May. So if anyone has an audit that was canceled or postponed because we couldn't get out to do it for you, please contact our office. And the best way to do that is through our email address, which is scsaprograminfo@scsaonline.ca. Sorry, big long address. I'm sure that Carol will put that up a little bit later for you. Yeah, so contact our office. We are taking bookings for CCOR audits right now. We're doing only CCOR, only documentation audits, and we have a system set up where you can upload your documentation to an FTP site, a secure FTP site, and the auditor will be able to review it, and we set aside a day, and same process, opening and closing meeting, and you get your audit tool at the end of the day, and we have a way we can electronically email you your certificates as well. The other thing is if you happen to be using programs such as SiteDocs, we'll have the auditor get in touch with you. It may be just as simple as providing us a guest access to your SiteDocs so that the auditor would be able to take a look at your documents. And other than that, Sask Poly has opened up their remote proctoring for NCSO exams. So any NCSOs that have some time on their hand and have finished all their courses and have maintained their certifications can hop onto our website and register at Sask Poly through our website. And those exam times, I believe, are open from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. I have to double check that, but there's lots of opportunities there to write the exam. And we're still doing manual reviews, internal audits, self-audits, maintenance audits, pretty much everything except core external auditing, and we're working on a plan for that as well. Kara?
Sorry. Thanks, Kelly. That's awesome. Yeah, we're working hard here to make sure that we're trying to run business as usual as best we can. So if you have any questions at all, reach out to us through the Q&A function here or through an advisor by any means that Steve showed you earlier. Jaria, did you have any updates from your department?
I do. I think my computer's frozen, but I still am here and I'm able to hear and see everything. So for the training unit, we are continuing to schedule training courses for the coming weeks. These courses do include safety management, safety admin, occupational health committee level 1, and our newly added and very highly requested course, leadership for safety excellence. There will be additional courses and dates available in the coming weeks. As usual, spot availability for these courses are limited. So to sign up for these classes or check the course schedule for upcoming courses, you can contact our office or visit us online at scsaonline.ca. We are currently using Zoom as a platform to hold these courses. The links for our documentation and additional information are sent via email. So it is strongly recommended that computers with audio and visual capabilities are used to take these instructor-led online courses with us. As we add more classes to the schedule, it will allow us to carry our courses in an extremely similar fashion to the ones that we held in class style. This new platform does take time to get used to and learn for both our organization and those attending, but technical support is available prior to and during the duration of our course. The courses are still accredited towards CCOR, CORE, your Health and Safety Administration, and National Construction Safety Officer designations. These certificates will be issued as they would have been in class training. Any of the questions about any of our course offerings, conversations, and or questions with any of the training business units or any general inquiries are available during regular business hours. So please visit us online for continued updates. As of right now, we still have openings for our safety management course and LSE course that's being held next week. So please check us out online.
Awesome. Thanks, Jaria. Really good updates from all departments. I appreciate everybody taking the time to keep everybody in the know of what's going on. Looks like my camera has frozen also, but I am also still here. I think we're going to jump into the Q&A. So again, if you have any questions for any of our panelists regarding advisory services, training, program services, anything like that, please use the Q&A function and we'll try to get to them all. I'm going to jump right in here. So I think the first one, and I typed an answer in here, someone was asking why they can't talk. Only the panelists are able to speak on this platform. So again, if you have any questions, anything that you want to ask, just type it into the Q&A and I'll be sure to address that to the group. Okay, first question here, second rather. Since we can't have them on site, can the advisors host private virtual toolbox meetings to our workers right now? Steve or Bill, you want to take?
I could jump in. Yeah, if you send the advisor a email and with a little bit of coordination and some pre-planning, I'm sure that we could help facilitate a toolbox talk on your site. If you have workers that are taking their coffee or lunch breaks in separate locations or in vehicles to try to maintain social distancing or physical distancing, I should say, then this is a good option. We can possibly set up a Zoom meeting with them and have your staff join us as we help provide a toolbox talk.
Great, thanks, Bill. If nobody has anything to add, I'll just go to the next question here. Are there any events usually held for the day of mourning when we are not dealing with COVID-19?
And I'll jump in on that one too, Kara. Yes, a lot of places host day of mourning events where they gather workers and company owners and such to again recognize that 11 o'clock moment of silence. However, again, with the situation that we're currently in, most of those events have been postponed. So this is kind of something that we're going to have to take on individually, is to again keep an eye out on that clock and recognize that at 11 o'clock today, we should be, on sites that I've been on, everybody puts down the tools, everybody stops working, things are shut off for a moment, and we take time again to reflect on those that have lost their lives in an occupation. And as I said earlier, trying to put some emphasis in our days to prevent it from happening to us as well too, and to our current coworkers.
Absolutely.
Just to add to that, there are actually still Facebook events going on today, like the Regina District Labor Council, the Saskatoon District Labor Council. You go to their websites, or you just type in day of mourning, and there's all sorts going on Canada-wide, and just in Saskatchewan alone, like Moose Jaw, Regina, Saskatoon, Weyburn, all online, all on Facebook.
Great. Thanks, Bill and Steve. Sorry, excuse me. Really good information there. Next question we have, I don't have an advisor. Do I just pick someone on the website, or do I have to be assigned an advisor?
Keep clicking on the wrong button. I hit the actual unmute symbol here, but I'll take that one. No, just pick if you don't have an advisor. If you know the area you're in, maybe try to pick Regina or Saskatoon, just so when we do get out and about, we'll have a chance to meet you in person. But certainly you could pick anyone. You don't need to be assigned someone. When you're signing up for something like CORE or C-CORE, usually somebody's assigned to you before you get a chance to pick. But just because we have our regions, but yeah, just for asking general questions, or you just want to talk to somebody and you don't have one, pick a name.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. So yeah, you can use the function that Steve went through on the website to pick an advisor that you like. If you're not sure, if you're in a regional area, you're not in Saskatoon or Regina, feel free to call the office and somebody at the front will assign you to the advisor in your region also. It's an option. Excuse me. Next I have, it states that fall protection equipment has to be stamped with a CSA standard. Does that mean my guardrails have to bear the same mark of approval?
I'll jump in here on that one, Kara. So because most times guardrails are constructed from job site materials, they need to make sure that they're in compliance with the regulations, so that they have an adequate top rail, mid rail, and a toe kick as necessary, and mid rail supports or vertical supports as needed. Now, if you are using a commercially available handrail assembly, so if you've purchased a piece of equipment to be used as a handrail, then I would look to make sure that that handrail meets CSA or ANSI certification. A lot of that has to do with being capable of supporting the weight of a worker falling against it. So making sure that it is also installed correctly, following the manufacturer's recommendations and the instructions for installation. But no, your 2x4 constructed at a minimum worksite handrails would not need to bear a CSA stamp of approval.
Perfect, thanks, Bill. Another one here I have, how long does it take to get the NCSO exam results back?
That one would be mine. Normally, we say 4 to 6 weeks to correct them and return the results to the examinee. Right now, because we have a little bit more capacity and we're doing the remote proctored exams, the turnaround time is actually quite a bit less. So you can expect your exam results back in about 2 weeks, depending on volume. So if we have a whole bunch of people all of a sudden that decide they want to take the exams, it may take a little longer, but we're looking at about a 2-week turnaround right now.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Next, what do we do when there is no place to tie off? One of the advisors maybe want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll answer this one. That's kind of a broad question because there's, I mean, all sorts of different scenarios where people feel that they can't tie off. You know, they just have to use other means to get the job done. Like you don't, you know, I'm a framer by trade, so when I think of no place to tie off, I'm thinking about walking the top of a wall. But you don't necessarily have to walk the top of that wall. There's all sorts of planking systems you can use. You know, genies out there. There's all sorts of different methods to use when tying off isn't an option. Yeah, and you know, if you're on bigger projects, if you're trying to go out onto a deck and there's no place to tie off, well, then that's maybe time to talk to the supervisor and say, you know, we got to start getting anchor points on these decks. But the one thing you don't do is continue working in a dangerous area without tying off or some form of safety, whether it be guard railing or travel restraint, that sort of thing.
Just to tie on to that, Steve, we always want to look at the hierarchy of controls and see if there's a potential to eliminate the fall so that we don't have to look at always tying off. If we're working in a situation where there's an open hole in the work surface, the first thought a lot of times workers have is to go directly to the PPE, to grab a harness and a lanyard or a lifeline. And then that includes the difficulty as mentioned in the question. There may not be an adequate spot to tie off. But remembering that hierarchy of controls, we always want to look at the elimination component first. Is there a way that we can remove that hazard or that potential of falling from the workplace? So by covering the hole and adequately securing that covering and marking it and meeting all the regulatory compliance for that, we can provide a form of fall protection for the workers by, again, eliminating that hazard completely. There are other options, as Steve mentioned. We could install control zones. We can install some engineering controls such as guardrails and handrails on certain fall scenarios to help prevent that from becoming an issue for the workers. So we should always remember that we're looking at PPE as the last line of defense when it comes to fall hazards. We're always going down that hierarchy first and seeing if we can eliminate, substitute, install engineering controls before we resort to looking at PPE and fall protection in that fashion. Because again, as the question said, it is sometimes difficult to find adequate and secure anchorage on some locations.
Great, thanks Bill and Steve again. That was awesome. Really good answers. Next we have, continuing on with Fall Pro questions here. If someone is arrested by a fall in a strange spot on site, do we need to have emergency equipment to get them down? We are a small company and cannot afford to rent a lift for just in case. Can we rely on emergency services and prepare ourselves for things we can afford to prevent? That's a really good question.
That is a good question. I'll maybe jump in on this one too. One thing that Steve had mentioned during the toolbox talk is the development of your fall protection work plan. So a component within that fall protection work plan is the rescue procedures if a worker is suspended by a personal fall arrest system. Now, the nice thing about filling out that fall protection work plan in advance is that you don't put yourself in a situation where you have a worker that is suspended and you have not planned for how to get them down. So developing that plan before you mobilize to site or before the fall hazard is present or the workers are allowed to work in an area where they can fall affords you some time to contact. We've spoke to people that have said that they're more than happy to provide a lift if they have it on site. So if you're working on a construction project, whether residential or otherwise, possibly 2 or 3 houses down, another contractor has a piece of equipment that you can use to help facilitate rescue. A simple step down the street and asking them if you could have their phone number in the event of an emergency to contact them to help make sure that you have some method to have that worker retrieved. Sometimes it can be making sure that you have an adequate ladder on site so that you can remove somebody off the face of a building or help facilitate self-rescue. We do have to remember that emergency services can be an effective means of rescue if you're in major centers. The high-angle rescue can be mobilized quite quickly if you're within the urban areas of Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw, or otherwise. But I use an example all the time of Davidson, because Davidson is an hour away from most large metropolitan areas, if you want to call it as such. So you're looking at over an hour to have emergency services travel to have that person extracted from the side of the building. And within that town, they have some large structures, some inland grain terminals and some concrete elevators. If a worker is suspended off the side of one of those, they have the potential of being over 100 feet in the air. The local emergency services, as well equipped as they are, may not have adequate equipment to remove somebody off the side of a building at over 100 feet. So that's where you need to start looking when you're developing your fall protection work plan at making those rescue procedures applicable to the job that you're doing, to the task and location that you're performing that work. So that may include, as you said, afford to prevent. You always have to make sure that you have a way to get those workers down. So as I said, if you're in one of those remote locations, that may be renting a piece of equipment for the time. So you might have to rent a winching system that can be attached securely to the side of the building or at the top so that you can allow a rescue line to be lowered to the worker that is suspended or otherwise. But you can't not plan to have that worker removed down, just saying, well, I'm going to call emergency services. Because again, in those remote locations, it could be over an hour before somebody can come and provide assistance. And as much as a lot of people think that they're able to, well, if somebody falls over the side of the building, they'll just grab the rope and pull them up. A worker suspended from a 5/8 rope 20 feet down will take a number of workers to try to pull that person back up to safety. And at that time, that places those other workers who are engaged in that inappropriate rescue of sorts and puts them in danger of falling as well too. So always plan, always have that plan completed, and make sure that you've looked at not only the local resources, whether it is, again, somebody down the street that can help provide assistance, or whether or not you have to rent a piece of equipment to try to help facilitate that rescue.
Thanks, Bill. That was awesome, really thorough. Yeah, there's lots of options out there. I mean, and again, if there's a resource that you need from us, feel free to reach out. We are more than happy to provide you with a kind of a generic fall protection plan so that you and your coworkers are safe on site. The next question we have here is for training. So, well, maybe training. Is the cost of the course for members the same? So I assume that means the online training. Is our online training going to cost the same as the in-class training for members?
Unfortunately, representing training today, I actually don't know how the costs are for this portion of it.
I'll just jump in here. I believe that all course costs remain the same at this point. Nothing has changed.
Great, thanks, Kelly. That's awesome. That was on here a couple times. Next, do you have any demonstrations or presentations you could do for my company regarding fall protection?
Looks like Steve's still catching up here with some of the video. I'll jump in on this one. Sorry, Steve, if I cut you off. But the SCSA does have a fall protection demonstration trailer where we can demonstrate the use of proper fall protection and some of the forces that may be applied to the body in the event of the use of the incorrect equipment. Now, of course, with the current situation that we're in, this demonstration is currently on hold. But as restrictions start to roll out and ease off in the next little bit, we will most certainly be looking at how we can come back and provide those demonstrations to your workers on site.
Great, thanks, Bill. Next we have, I attended a regional safety committee meeting last week and we had different people from different regions, which was good. Are there any upcoming RSCs in other regions that I can attend?
Yeah, there sure are. Actually, the next RSC meeting is tomorrow for the Estevan region. And that's just, if you go to our events page, SCSA online /events, you're going to see the upcoming meetings and the links to get there. So you just go to our website, click the Zoom button there, and you can be joining us. It's at 10 a.m. tomorrow for the Estevan one.
Great, thanks, Steve. Next one we have here, are there any tips or strategies when preparing for taking the NCSO exam?
Well, I can start talking on that one, and then I'm going to pass it over to Carrie, who has he's taken the exam, so he can give you some firsthand experience. The first thing I would suggest is that you review all your manuals that you had from your training courses prior to taking the exam. All the information that's on the exam is contained in your training manuals. The second thing is that on our website we have an NCSO exam prep guide that is worth a download. We've had really good feedback to that, and it gives you a really good idea of what to expect on the exam itself. Carrie, do you have any other tips?
Second, there we go. Took a minute to click to unmute. With regards to the NCSO exam, Kelly hit the nail with the hammer. You have to take a look at the previous course materials, and oftentimes within those books, whether it's safety management, fall protection, safety auditor, there's self-test questions within the course materials that we've taken. So I reviewed those fairly extensively. The other thing is the NCSO exam prep was a really good tool to use to prepare for that exam. So there's a combination of short questions, long questions, and multiple choice. So just in thinking about that, don't spend too much time and get stuck on one question. Just mark it down on your paper, come back to it if you don't know the answer. So think about short questions. So if they say, what are the 4 key principles? Don't write one principle down, write 4 principles. So that would give you a little tip on that. And with the long answers, we don't want storybooks or chapters, but we want enough information to answer the question thoroughly. So make sure that you're diligent and thorough, and just kind of take a look at other resources. I looked at a couple other safety associations across Canada. They also have preparation guides, and they're very much the same as the SCSA guide. So that's what I did, and worked out really well. So I hope that helps.
Great, thank you, Kelly and Carrie. Good answers. Next we have, how far into the future am I looking if I wish to book a remote C-Corps audit?
I guess that one's mine as well. As I said, we are just getting going with these in about a week and a half. Right now, I would say we don't want to overload ourselves because this is a new process for us. But if you're looking, say, towards the end of May, beginning of June, I would suggest contacting our office as soon as possible. To give yourself the best advantage and enough time to upload your documentation, you want to be contacting us at a minimum 3 or 4 weeks before you want to book your audit, and this will give us time to set you up with the FTP server and walk you through any issues you might have during the upload of the information. Hope that answers it.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Kelly. Next, are you offering fall protection courses online?
That is actually one of the things that we are very closely working on at the moment, but it has not yet been released onto any of the course schedules. Just make sure to keep updated with that. And if there is any specific questions that you have pertaining to fall protection, get a hold of us. But for now, fall protection is not yet at its completion level of being offered online.
Great, thanks, Jaria. Yeah, I know the training department's working really hard to get these classes rolled out online, but it's gonna take a little bit of time. So just keep checking the website and under the courses offered, and hopefully we'll have one rolled out for you soon. Next we have, how will the exams be administered in an online course?
One of my most favorite and newest things that we have come across is our ability to be able to send these out during the chat. We send the link over at the end of the course, and then we all kind of sit together until those are all submitted, and they're instant. So the responses for those exams come also quite immediately to us, and we're able to let all the attendees know how they did. If for some reason that link doesn't work via chat, we can send it to you via email. Either way, those exams are administered through this online course in an extremely efficient and effective way. So definitely still possible, and definitely still something we look forward to doing all the time. We're learning lots about that new platform and those new forms, but they're very well perceived.
Great, thanks, Jaria. Yeah, I think we're all learning a little bit from all this, so that's good. Next we have, when conducting at future core audits, is the SCSA going to be looking at appropriate COVID-19 paperwork, such as exposure control plan and social distancing policies?
Okay, that sounds like an auditing question. So essentially, you have to look at, those are going to be fairly new policies and practice procedures. So you take and place it where it's relevant to the audit tool. So if we're looking at a safe work practice and a safe job procedure, we would assess, are they following the controls that's listed in that practice procedure? So that's number one. Number two, it's a time-based audit. So it's only that snapshot of the 3 or 4 days that we're there for that time. And during the observation, if we see people are supposed to be following social distancing or whatever the other control plans are, we'll assess the documentation. We'll monitor when we're conducting the observation component and say, you know, are these people 2 feet apart? Are they 5 feet apart? Or are they following what the protocol is? And that's how we base our auditing techniques, on those kinds of policies for the future.
Great, thanks, Carrie. So I have one here. I missed the Regina RSE. Can I attend one from another region? I think we answered that, but if anybody wants to jump in on that one, feel free. If not, I'll jump to the next question. So I have to have a different fall plan at every site. I can't use the same fall protection plan for all of my sites.
Most likely that'll be true. Like, it would be not normal for 2 sites to be exactly the same. So you have to take in consideration whenever you're doing your fall protection plan, you know, terrain, the equipment using, the manpower, weather, like everything can be completely different on the next job site, even phone numbers that you would need to contact, all sorts of different things. So yes, it's, you would have to most likely be doing one for every job site, which is, you know, good practice anyways. Even if 2 sites are identically the same, you should be reviewing that policy all the time. Like, you know, if you do everything right, nobody should fall, but when somebody does fall, that is very important to make sure you have the proper plan to get that person down.
According to the regulations, the fall protection plan required by that by the regulation 116.1, you must describe the fall hazards that are at the work site and the fall protection system to be used at that work site. So unless you're building something that is absolutely identical, those type of things will change. So the hazards may be, what are present on one build may not be exactly the same as the fall hazards that are present on another one. So the way that you would go about protecting the workers would change, possibly with the use again of guardrails or a different system, whether it's a self-retracting lifeline or possibly just a static lifeline. So yes, as Steve said, the development of a fall protection work plan is not incredibly onerous. It's something that, again, with some practice, you can make quite efficient and quite effective with your workers. So take the time to fill one out for the individual job sites where those hazards vary and where the systems vary, and make sure that you inform and train the workers on that plan.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill and Steve. Really good answers. Next, we're still working, but now we're having issues with how to get workers or anyone to sign documents. Nobody wants to share anything. With the core audit, what should we do to show people we have read, signed off, or whatever we need to do?
Carrie, that's a you question.
There's a couple ways that you can do that. There's an electronic based signature that you can attend. Like when you have a program like a site docs or an electronic based document, you can have one person, like a supervisor, say that there's these 5 people within the room and document their names. So we'll be accepting that. Similar to a paperwork, if you have a toolbox talk like Steve presented this morning, there's 10 people that were presented that information. The site supervisor or foreman can document all the person's names and acknowledge that he said these people were present at that time. So there's a couple ways that you can do that, and we'll be looking for that. And also thinking about this time and having some realistic approach to that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, thanks, Gary.
Just to expand on that. Oh, yeah, we were discussing that actually earlier today. It's actually a tiny bit of a question, Carrie, but like we were thinking about, you know, if you did your toolbox talk and then, you know, held it up and took a picture to show all the people that were in it, if they all wanted to be involved. But there's all sorts of different methods to prove that people were there, sort of thing. So you shouldn't just say, you know, we can't sign, so I'm just going to say all these people were here. They're, you know, the more documentation you can prove that people were available for that stuff. Emails, from my understanding, work too. Like if you pass it around by email form, another great way. But companies are definitely getting innovative on how they're doing their signatures, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that.
Great, thanks, gentlemen. So I'm gonna just give everybody, we got about 7 minutes here left. We're gonna try to get through as many questions as we possibly can. So we'll just keep going here and hopefully we answer everybody's, but if not, check us out on Thursday, we'll be back again. Next question, will this new C-Corps audit process be continuing after our pandemic situation subsides?
Well, this is actually, it's kind of interesting. At the beginning of the year, we were starting to explore how we could use our technology to make the auditing process a little bit more efficient. And one of the things that we were looking at was how we can incorporate Teams or Zoom or something such as this into the audit process. Of course, the plan for that got ramped up really quickly with COVID-19, so we're kind of here now. So we were already looking at that. We are treating the remote auditing as a pilot. Because again, we've had to ramp up quite quickly. But I would say that if it's successful, I think this is definitely something we can look at in the future.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Another one here, will online training be a continued course once the COVID restrictions are off? So same question as before, just with training rather than auditing, looks like.
As of right now, the definitive answer is not out there, but there is presumed to be continued options for this type of format in the future.
I just wanted to speak briefly to a question that came up previously. As of this afternoon, we'll be doing the final testing steps on the fall protection that will be provided live. So within the next few days, you should start seeing some schedule additions for the course. I do recommend that you contract training services if you had a need for this for your workers, so that we could start developing a list of interested companies and we can get that information to them as soon as we're live. So again, sometime next week, we should be up and running with the course. And if you did have interest in that, please again, contact training services. Somebody will hopefully put an email within the chat function and let them know that you have workers or yourself that is interested in taking that class online.
Thanks, Bill. Another one here. I'm not too familiar with online training. Do we get training or clear instructions on how to do this? My internet is hit and miss. Will this be an issue?
So as I previously mentioned, having a computer with audio and visual capabilities is highly recommended on our part. So for you to be able to be a part of this, we do send information and all of the requirements the day before, along with a link on how to use Zoom from the actual Zoom development team. So if you go through, we just highly also recommend that once you get that information, which will be sent out the day prior, to actually go through, do the practice portion of it and not wait until the actual time of the course beginning. Like I had also previously mentioned, there is technical support available. We'll always include a name and a phone number or contact information for someone who can assist you prior to and during the duration of the course. Having internet as a hit and miss is kind of hard for me to answer. If you miss out on some of the information, I mean, obviously the exam won't be extremely easy to answer all the questions, and missing information is obviously a big part of that as well. So definitely doing your best on that part, but also contacting us if there is anything that we can assist with prior to or during. We will definitely do as best as we can with that as well.
Great, thanks, Jaria. Another one here for the Program Services Department. When core audits are being done remotely, how will site observations be done?
We're not quite in a position yet to determine how we're going to be doing this. Right now, I can tell you that we're working on some enhanced PPE kits in terms of preventing infectious diseases for our auditors going out onto site. We're also working on some new protocols for auditing as well that will help keep our auditors and the companies that we are auditing, help keep their workers safe as well. In terms of what will happen, this will all depend on what the public health restrictions in place are at the time that we go back to doing auditing and doing observations on site. So a lot of that is still up in the air, but we're ready to respond when we know that we will be going back, and like I said, we will be following the public health protocols.
Great, thanks, Kelly. One more thing before we wrap up here. I just wanted to touch on the COVID-19 safety protocols for Saskatchewan. So I'm going to try to get to these other two questions, but we may run out of time. So if you check out our website, scsaonline.ca, go to the news feed, you will see on April 16th, the COVID-19 safety protocol for Saskatchewan. So the SCSA, along with the Canadian Federation of Construction Safety Associations, WorkSafe Saskatchewan, Merit Contractors Association Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan Construction Association, and Regina and Region Homebuilders Association have published the COVID-19 safety protocols for Saskatchewan. So the creation of this document acknowledges that Saskatchewan construction firms have already made a number of changes to operations to keep their workers and the public safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. This document captures some of the excellent practices that have been put in place by construction, and it will allow for greater consistency of information and teamwork in the industry. If you want to download that document, it is available on our website, where I had mentioned in the newsfeed, just at the bottom there, there'll be a link to download the protocol. And you can visit the SCSA COVID-19 resources page for more information. So we do have a couple questions left, but I think we're pretty well out of time. I'm going to send these to the Thursday team so that they can answer them. Thursday we'll be back from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. again for another session of Ask the SCSA. I apologize that we ran out of time, but I will get to these questions on Thursday. I want to thank all of the panelists for taking time to meet with us today and answer the questions that we've had from industry. And I hope to see you all back here on Thursday.